Hey, welcome to the Because Business is Personal podcast, the podcast where empathy meets marketing strategy. I'm your host, Mike Caldwell, but I'm also known as the Marketing Medic. Now, the reason for that is because before becoming a marketing strategist, I actually worked as a paramedic for 12 years. And it was during that time that I realized how important it was to truly understand the problems your patient was facing before you started providing treatment. And it's this same understanding, this same empathy is just as crucial when it comes to understanding our prospects and making sales. And that's why in each episode, we'll dissect the art of empathic marketing, exploring how top professionals infuse empathy into their strategies to build stronger relationships, boost their sales, and make a lasting impact. So buckle up and prepare to turn up the dial on your marketing effectiveness. Hey everyone, welcome back to Because Business is Personal. I'm going to be fully transparent here and admit a big mistake I made with our upcoming guest. Susan Walsh is our next guest, and when I started the interview with her, I just jumped right into asking her to share a personal story from her past, and I didn't introduce her at all. So I'm editing this post-production, and I'm going to introduce her properly now. Susan, if you're listening, I'm so sorry for not doing this when we were one-on-one. All right, here we go. Susan Walsh is the self-published author of Emily, a Regency-era romance that captures her love for the period's literature and culture. She draws inspiration from Jane Austen and her extensive research into Regency life, maintaining a rich collection of books on etiquette, dress, and daily living of the time. Despite her busy career as a loyalty director at one of Australia's top consulting agencies, she continues to pursue her passion for storytelling, crafting her second novel while still running her podcast, More to Marketing, where she shares her extensive marketing knowledge with her audience. Her role as loyalty director involves designing and implementing loyalty programs for businesses, a testament to her dedication and expertise. She's also an adept event manager with experience in creating successful events ranging from local cultural festivals to large promotional campaigns featuring international celebrities. In today's conversation, Susan will share how she combines her love for literature and marketing to craft authentic brand stories. She shares her views on technology advancements in AI and how they impact marketing and branding, and her unique approach to building genuine connections. So without further ado, let's jump into the formal podcast where I spoke with Susan Walsh. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Because Business is Personal. Today we're talking to a lovely woman from, I don't know if this is cheesy to say or not, but down under. She's down in Australia.
Very true. Sydney.
Yeah. And so Because Business is Personal, the way I like to start each of our podcasts is just to learn something personal about you that, might surprise most people.
No problem at all. So for me, I have an absolute love for Jane Austen. So not a lot of people know that about me, but one of the things I decided to do one day was to write my own Regency novel that I self-published on Amazon.
Oh, wow.
So my little fascinating different thing that you may not know about me is actually self-published my own Regency romance called Emma.
So
Emily. It's called Emily. Sorry, I'm reading Emma right now from Jane Austen, but it's called Emily, and I'm writing my second one as well.
So it's a Regency. What's that?
So have you ever heard of Jane Austen?
I've heard of her. I have not read her work.
So it is based back in her period. So we're going back 200-300 years. In her time, we're pretty much, no offense, females out there, but men kind of ruled most of the world.
Right.
And women in those times, most of their occupation was trying to find a husband.
Okay.
So it's going through a story of a gentleman's daughter and how she goes about her everyday life and then hopefully finding romance. Or does she ever find romance? I don't know. You'll have to read Emily to find out.
Okay. So my marketing strategy is called empathic marketing, and that's what I like to talk about a lot in this podcast, is empathy as it applies to marketing. But this is really cool. So before we get into the business side of things, like you would really have to empathize with a woman from 200 or 300 years ago.
Yes.
And so that would be hard. How did you do that? Because I don't know how I would start to empathize with a guy from And it's funny because, as we said, I was just out like chopping firewood and loading the fire bin. So I'm probably doing the same thing a guy 200 years ago would do. But at the same time, yeah, it would be hard because like my wife's at work. I'm waiting for her to come home so I can cook her dinner, which is probably a little bit different than
exactly.
a guy 200 years ago, right? I could be up chopping wood, and my wife would be.
Well, if you were a gentleman, you would not be chopping wood. You'd have servants or manservants to do that for you.
Okay.
You'd be the leisurely guy who would be sitting by the fire, maybe reading a book, maybe doing some book work like your accounting to see how you're going with your business because you might be a gentleman farmer.
Okay.
You would probably also, during the day, you'd go out shooting or possibly just seeing all your tenants to see how they're making money for you with all their little farm parcels that they've got.
Okay.
Or you could maybe be doing stocks. So you might be a merchant. They're not as gentlemanly.
Okay.
But it's all good fun. So for me, it was I don't know how many times I've read Jane Austen's all her books and poems.
Wow.
I've read it so many times. I've also done a lot of research as well. So I've got a cabinet probably of about 30 to 40 different books based on the Regency period, from etiquette through to dress. So I use those as source material as well.
Okay. Wow. So how does it feel? So when you're writing the book, I guess you're like really get into the mindset of the period.
Definitely.
And like you are, like we just had a brief little conversation before the podcast started. You're definitely a new age woman. Like you're taking care of business, right? And so
Very true.
How does it make you feel to, time travel like that?
So for me, it's one of those things that you do to relax and also to do something that you enjoy. There's no point just doing 9 to 5 on the train, being bored, being one of those, I call them lemmings. You're literally just a lemming that just goes about its day.
Right.
I want to be able to say that I've at least done something that I enjoy. I wrote the book for myself. I didn't write it for other people. I self-published it in case other people wanted to read it. But for me, this was something for me in my heart that I wanted to do. I wanted to publish something that I thought was a lovely, cute story, something that was really close to me because I built it from nothing, and just go with it. So I filled in my time on the train because I'm quite far away from the city. I'm about an hour and a half. So every morning and every evening on the train, I just sit there writing.
Oh, nice. And you just, so for radio listeners or audio listeners, you just did a hand. Did you write by hand or on a laptop?
Literally hand wrote. I'm still very old school in that. I love to hand write before typing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
But then it did have to be typed, right?
It took me a while, yes. And then I got an editor to edit it for me.
Okay.
And then graphic design, I did that myself. I'm redoing it, so it will look prettier very, very soon over Christmas. I'll dedicate some time to do that. But,
so what's the name of the book in case people are interested in checking this out?
So it's Emily by Susan Walsh, available on Amazon.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, like, I'm not really interested in Jane Austen or that period or anything like that, but I'm really interested in people who are interested in something. And that's just so cool that you have like this unique passion. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's very close to my heart. And like I said, I'm writing my second one right now. I did 4,000 words of it about 6 years ago and set it aside. And I've just picked it back up in the last 3 days. So I'm rereading everything and I'm about to start writing from literally next week.
Sweet. All right. Well, let's move from Jane Austen and Regency time period to today.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit what you're doing on the business side of life.
So I have 2 parts to my life. So one part is my everyday work that I do. So I happen to be a loyalty director for operations for one of Australia's leading loyalty consultancy programs. What we do there is we actually design loyalty programs for businesses. We go through the whole process with them, the research, finding out what consumers actually do need and want and resonate with that brand. All the way through to doing all the documentation they need to find the right vendor to bring the solution to life. And then we can also help them doing the implementation process. And if they so choose, they can then come to my team that I run and we can operate it for them, whether it's operating the whole loyalty program for their members or just doing pieces of it. So it might be sourcing offers, for example, with partners. So that's what I run, and I have my team that I work with that do all those. So that's my everyday job. But my other side gig, which Mark knows quite well, is I'm also a podcaster too. I've got my own podcast called More to Marketing. It is my little side passion. I love helping others. I love sharing knowledge as well. So I do that on the weekends, where I then put an episode out every week, and every second week I have a special guest. So stay tuned. Mike will also be joining mine in the near future.
Looking forward to it. So let's go back to we'll call it your day job and the loyalty program for a minute, because just prior to me getting on this podcast with you, I was in one of the Facebook groups for the funnel building software that I use. Mm-hmm. And there was a question from like a newer person saying, yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to get my head around everything. Like, do I start with the landing page, the squeeze page, or is it the offer, or do I build my membership first? And like, I just don't know what pages to build first. And there was all these answers for some people say, oh, build your membership first, because then this, or build this squeeze page, or this. And it's funny because there's like a dozen of those answers. And I said, your first thing isn't to build anything. Your first thing is to do research.
Correct.
Don't do the research. What are you building, right? And so tell us a little bit about the research that you do for that end of your job.
So not just for this job, but for all my previous jobs. So just another bit of background about myself. I've been doing marketing and product for over 2 decades. So I've done it for some of the leading brands within Australia, and also one that you probably know in America, Guthrie Renker, which does a proactive skincare. So I've had a very great rounded experience in marketing and product. And I suppose you always have to start with, if you're brand new and you've got nothing at all, research. Go into, is this a gap in the market that you've identified, or are you going to be competing against someone? And that's where your research then begins. You start with that very basic landing of, okay, I'm brand new, but who is going to be similar to me? Because in most cases, there's something similar. So you should be looking for, what are people looking for? What are the trends going? What is Google Trends saying too? That's a really good tool to be able to use. What are their websites saying? If there's product reviews or any types of reviews, what are they saying too? And then expand your research out beyond that when you see who their competitors are. And that should give you a really good understanding about what's going on. Then you can use this tool that gets overused and not correctly called SWOT, which is your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. That, just for everyone to know, that is for a moment in time. Only a moment in time. Do not go back to it 2 years later and reuse it. You need to remake it. Right. It's a snapshot. Yeah. So make one of those as well, so that you've got a good understanding about how you slot in against those. So definitely research. If you can afford to, you can go out and do surveys. There are some very affordable methods that you can do with either Facebook or also Google. And beyond that, if you are actually an existing product or service, survey your members, survey your base, find out what they're thinking, find out all the different pieces that might help them make them attached to you more. Another area that's very greatly missed is your own team. One of the things I love doing when I'm working in businesses, and even in my previous role, was I would become very close to the call center. And I would always go into the call center and find out what grassroots, what are people saying when they're calling through? What are their key problems? What can you see would make life better? What do you see out there you think we should be doing as well? And that kind of interaction also helps build your business, and everyone internally want to be part of the story too. So you're bringing in that, I suppose you'd call it empathy within there, to build out what you're actually creating together.
Wow. So simple. So obvious.
You think it is, but unfortunately, it's one of the funniest things. So many times you'll go to a business and say, what are the key complaints or key comments coming through the call center? Not even asking call center reps yet, just asking about the complaints. Oh, well, our NPS is blah. It's like, no, it wasn't what I asked. It's what are the actual topics? What are the themes? Even if it's just you've got a page of 100, can you send them through and we'll see if there's anything common that's in there, or anything that really stands out for us? because there could be one golden nugget in there that could be a game changer for you.
Right. Very cool. And so research. So what's the next step in, let's just help this woman that in the Facebook group. So she's done the research. What would you say the next step is for her?
100%. You need to validate it with your target audience. There's no point just going to, if she's married and has a husband, hey, John, what do you think of this? Do you think this works? Oh, yes, honey, you're always right. No. You go out and find your actual target audience and get them to critique it or be part of it as well. So it could be focus groups or wherever it might be. But you actually got to find out if it resonates. Otherwise, it's not going to move anywhere. And people love to have people go to them and ask them their opinions.
Right.
People love to share that. So just put yourself out there. Even if negative things come back, guess what? You can adapt. You haven't gone live yet. This is an opportunity to make it magical.
Yes, that's so important to ask people not in your inner circle. I did a TED Talk 2 weeks ago, and I've done a lot of talks before, and I usually have a bullet point, and I know my topic, and I just speak on it, and I make jokes, and it goes perfectly. But because it was a TED Talk, I wanted it to be more formal. I wanted it to be more thought leaderish. I wanted
prepared.
I wanted to follow what Simon Sinek did and sort of follow his, model. And so I memorized my script. Wow. I missed like 2 or 3 sentences, which is fine. But I could just tell as I was delivering the talk that it wasn't authentic. Like it just wasn't me speaking from the heart. And afterwards, my wife and my friends like, oh, that was great. I'm like, liar.
Oh, but they really probably did think it was great.
Well, they love me. Yeah.
Don't be so harsh. You're your worst critic.
Yeah. But I'm like, you've heard me speak before. And my wife heard me in the car. And I did a little bit better like driving there. And he's like, well, yeah. but the other thing is, so I like to take it a little bit step further than opinions and get them to pre-buy it. Like
well, that's when the next piece would be MVP though.
Okay, go with that then.
Because you're still only at the research and validate stage. You then got to actually create. I wouldn't recommend doing the whole piece yet. Don't build everything out yet. Start with the minimal viable so you can do it in a couple of phases. So then you can do what you're about to say, get people to play and have fun with it and give you real-time feedback. Because an MVP should literally be the core of what you're going to deliver, whether it's the product or the service, and that people can get the opportunity to actually use it how it should be used. It might not have all the bells and whistles. Like for an example here might be, it might not have the connection to social media to share yet, or it might not have every color available yet, but you can actually see, feel, touch, play with, do it as if it was fully there. And you can actually launch an MVP as well if you so choose to, or you can give it to that test group to play with.
Well, I actually kind of like selling the idea, the concept for a greatly reduced price. So I have a trail and snowshoe series here. And a few years back, we had an off-road triathlon. So we went to the back lake and people swam in the lake. And then we got on our mountain bikes and we mountain biked the trails. And then, so we had to walk to the lake with our bikes and we biked the trails. And we finished back at my house and we dropped our bikes and then we ran the trails. Anyways. After the race, a few people came to me. It's like, Mike, not everybody likes to swim. You should do like a duathlon where it's a run, bike, run. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And so I did. I created that. And the next year, we had exactly 0 people sign up for my duathlon. And I went to those people. I'm like, you said I should do this bike or run, bike, run. And they're like, yeah. Oh, no, I didn't want to do it, but I just thought it would be a good idea for other people. And so that's quite often when you're asking for opinions, they're giving you the opinions of what they think is a good idea. But until you can find somebody to actually like pony up some dollars, it's like, okay, I'll do it right, but you got to pre-register for it right now.
Yep.
Oh, and that's when they'll say, oh, no, it's not for me. I just thought like other people, might be interested. And
Yep.
so had I got that feedback a couple of times from those people who making that wonderful suggestion, then, I would have gone out and like pre-sold it before like designing the course, because that took me a couple of days to like create another run course and all this other stuff, right? And
100%. There's a lot of effort behind all of that.
yeah, but it's the same, like so many people who are like, there's so many people building online courses and coaching and sort of the thing now, right? Everybody's doing it. And because everybody's doing it, it's harder and harder to sell those things. And so many people spend so much time building the course, and getting all the bells and whistles. And this is what you're talking about. So don't add the bells and whistles, but even just like sell the concept. It's like, cause I've got a client and she rode her motorcycle around the world.
Wow.
And then,
that's a feat.
Yeah. And so from that, she changed her life, and she had a wholly different mindset, and she's got these 12 universal laws and the Lahapapano, that's a Hawaiian spirituality. Anyway, she wants to sell a course on that. And like, she's got a unique story with biking around the world and stuff, but still it's going to be hard with so many female mindset coaches. Like, is she going to be able to sell it? And so, like I've built a landing page and different things for her. She wanted me to do that. But I'm like, but before we go too much farther, like you've got a circle of friends. Find somebody who will give you, like, I think she wants to sell this course for like $997 or something, $997. I'm like, try to sell it for $97. Like, just say, hey, Susan, like, I've got this new course that's coming up, and it's going to be so awesome. You're going to learn 12 universal laws and the Ho'oponopono, spirituality, and all this cool stuff. And I'm going to sell it for $997, but I'm going to need some testimonials first. Would you be interested in being one of my first, beta clients for only $97? And if you say no, and all your friends say no, and everybody else says no, then this is where, like, maybe you need to go back to the research, right?
100%. And that's exactly the right way to start going about when you're building something so new and you're not known as that thought leader there, because you're naturally going to be getting some great testimonials to help support you, because you're hoping that these people are going to enjoy what you've created because you've tailored it for that audience. Yes.
But I think most of us, myself included, I don't know how you feel, I hate selling stuff. We all hate, like, that's why I like marketing. I'm a really good marketer. And so if you're really good at marketing, what happens is people ask how they can buy from me. And I love that. Oh, yeah, I want that. How do I buy it? I don't like asking them to make the purchase. But so many people are afraid to ask for the sale. And I don't know why they think that, once they have the course built and all the bells and whistles and it's been refined 19 times, that suddenly the sales are going to come in, because they don't.
Exactly. And it's probably going back to the simplicity of back a long time ago, 100 years ago, when cars first came about. They come in black only.
Right.
So if you're doing any other color, sorry, you must love black. But it comes down to, was there a market for it? And then over time, more colors, more models, more wheels, bigger and better, and whatever else inclusions there were, including safety. But it started off with something basic in one color to see if there was a market for it.
Wow. That's just a little bit of a light bulb, because I forgot about that. Like, what color are Teslas?
Out my way, I think they're all white.
Yeah.
I've mostly seen white driving around my area.
Yeah, and so there's some white ones. There's mostly white, and then I think there's a few black ones, and every once in a while I've seen another color, but maybe that was custom. Huh. I wonder if that's a similar mindset as, Henry Ford so many years ago.
Potentially. Who knows what's in the mind of Elon Musk?
Yeah, nobody. I don't even think he does half the time. So prior to the call starting tonight, you were talking about your love for events.
Yes.
So talk to me about events. Like, what do you like so much about events?
So I've been very fortunate in my career. I've been able to do all different things, including events in all different companies I've worked through. I used to actually help out on one of the center stages at a local festival, where I was on the side stage doing the ethnic stage, because it was all about cultural community and bringing together. So I was learning all these really unusual names, and I get John wrong, okay? So you can imagine how I went with very ethnic cultural names. But I had a good go at it, and I was running that stage and announcing them as the MC and making sure everything ran smoothly. But it was just seeing that connection, the connection back with the audience, and seeing all their family and friends and other people from their culture coming and listening to their traditional songs and dances. And it's just beautiful to see, to be able to see that connection happening. So in another role, I was very fortunate. We have a channel here called Channel 2, known as ABC, and we put a lot of things on from the BBC, from the UK on. And we get a lot of talent come to Australia to be able to actually sell some of their products, but they come and do events. So I was very fortunate to be able to have them come to my stores, and I ran these events as well, from concept all the way to the actual day itself, making sure everyone was safe and secure. And one of my most fabulous people that I had, which was an international, was Michael Crawford. Now, for those that don't know who he is, he's huge in the UK. He did Some Others Do Have Them back in, I think the 70s or 80s. And then he went on to actually sing the Phantom in Phantom of the Opera, and he was the original one on Broadway. Absolutely huge, phenomenal, beautiful guy. He came out to Australia because he was going around the world doing his Mother's Day CD. Okay. And I was so fortunate to have him come into my store. But when you do these events, for me, it's not just about selling, it's that connection with the audience. So we were getting people to just bring one item that was not from the store. And then if they wanted a CD, they could buy the item on the day. But just seeing him take his time with all these fantastic people that absolutely love him, talking about things that he's done, things that he's going to do, listening to their stories and actually stopping and enjoying the moment was, for me, just beautiful to see. And that's one of the things I love about running events, is that connection, seeing how people are able to come and enjoy something they don't normally have to and not have to pay for it. It's not like these giant tickets for like the people like Taylor Swift or Queen, or whoever it is out there, they're selling tickets for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. This was free. If you didn't have an item, you could still just stand there in the queue and just meet him for half a minute, and just say hi and shake his hands. Yeah. This was pre-COVID, so you could shake hands then. No fist bumps. But I also, with other events I've done, we have a lot of children's programs or teenage programs that are made in Australia that are very popular. So I was able to go out and run those programs as well on the day, and have all the centre stage events within shopping centres, and getting to see these little young kids or these teenagers sing their idols, which were actually, I like to think, authentic and kind idols, not ones that are getting in trouble for doing the wrong things, like your Logans of the age right now. Mm-hmm. And talking to the kids that are on the show about how they felt about seeing all these people turn up. They didn't think more than 10 would, and there was 2,000 people.
Oh, wow.
So these weren't small events. These were like big events where I had like 2,000 people taking over a shopping centre with a big queue and making sure it was safe. But seeing all these people just so happy just to be around people they've seen on TV, and then having that connection in the other way with the young teenagers going, I can't believe all these people turn out to see me, little me. And that was just beautiful. So I do have a soft spot in my heart for events. I don't get to do them anymore at the moment, but who knows in the future. But I do love that connection. Bringing the community together doesn't have to cost anything to them because it's not a ticketed event, but just seeing that energy that comes in.
Okay. So you said connection many times. And
I do.
And that's what empathic marketing is all about. And oh my gosh, like what is happening with artificial intelligence today?
Yes.
Like seriously, like maybe not every day, but every week, something mind-blowing appears. Like my friend Kurt, he showed a picture of his pantry yesterday. And he's like, I took a picture of my pantry with this Chat GPT app on this phone.
Okay.
And he said, hey, Chat, this is my pantry. What can I make for dinner for a family of 3 in less than 20 minutes?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Chat gave him...
It's now registering images.
He's like, just tell me what I can make from this pantry. And Chat gave him like 3 ideas. of what he could make with like the can of diced tomatoes and with the
Tomatoes and things. Yep.
Yeah, gave him 3 ideas, and then once he's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds good." Now, okay, Chad, give me the recipe for that for 3 people. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like that!
That's next level."
That's next level." And
Have
so it was funny
you?
because he just told me that I've been using ChatGPT on my computer on my laptop, but I haven't been using it on my phone. And so I had a doctor's appointment after I saw this. So I just took I uploaded the app to my phone. And I was in my doctor's office, and I took a photo of the blood pressure cuff. I'm like, "What is this?" And Chat's like, "This is a sphygmomanometer," and explained how it worked and who uses and what it does.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, like the world is just changing so rapidly. And so my friend Kurt, he's big in the AI world. And so another, mind-blowing thing, he's like, "Hey everybody, I know this looks like me, but this isn't me. Like this isn't my video. Like this isn't me really doing the video. This isn't my real voice. And I didn't even write the script." So he got like ChatGPT to write the script, and they put it into another software where he'd spent some time videotaping himself. And it's funny because like he just kind of moves his head when he says stuff. And
it wasn't.
And no, it was.
Oh, it did. It picked up his tics as well.
Yeah. Yes. And so online, moving forward, we're not going to know if we're really speaking. And I have another buddy who did he's a podcaster and he did a video podcast with Shaquille O'Neal. And he was getting all these comments saying that wasn't Shaq. That was an AI generated, because Shaq's kind of cartoonish in a way, right? So I guess, I don't know if you know Shaquille because being down under.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's world. But people were like, "No, that was like an AI." So now, like the distrust that is it's just starting. It's just starting, because if you really know Kurt, you could probably say, "Wait a minute, his mouth isn't moving perfectly for the words." Right? It was pretty close, but look closely. But in another like 2 weeks, that's going to be fixed.
Well, there's a whole pile of different things happening in that space right now. You've got major movie stars now suing for people using their likeness. I believe Scarlett Johansson's the most recent one. That's was it Theron? One of those two is now suing because someone's used their likeness. You've got recently with the actors' strike. They've just finished that and resolved it, and that was a lot to do with AI as well and the use of it. So they've actually won some major victories there for the future of their people within their society, the actors themselves, and their use of their voice and their imagery going forward. But there's also other tools out there as well that are a bit unusual to see being used. Things like even Google. You've now got the ability with Google to take a picture of something, and it will then search for that picture and tell you what it is and where you can buy it.
Right.
Or what it is, and then give you the description, like your example of when you're at the doctor's.
Yeah.
Another good tool that's just come out now, I'm not sure how big it is in America, but it's very huge in Australia, and that's Canva.
Right.
Canva's just started to bring in all AI within its platform as well, and it's absolutely a phenomenal platform, very reasonably priced, and it's where you can create all your own designs yourself. As an everyday person, you don't have to be a designer, but then designers can take it to the next level. So they've put AI into that as well, and a whole pile of other magic tools.
Yeah, so I did the TED Talk a couple weeks ago, and I memorized it, and I've got terrible bad memory, but I was able to go. So ChatGPT can create images now, and so I totally cheated with my talk. So what I did was, the talk was broken down into paragraphs. The first sentence from every paragraph was the title of that slide, and then I had 2 images, and each image most paragraphs are like 3 sentences, 3 or 4 or 5 sentences long. So each image would represent what I was going to talk about to give me
That's not cheating. That's just helping memory recall.
Yeah. But the way I was able to do it was I was able to go into ChatGPT, and it's called DAL-E or whatever, to make the images. And I would say, "Hey, Chat, create an image that represents these 3 sentences."
Amazing.
And it would. And what's cool about that is TED is very stringent. Like you can't go to Google and you just like rip images that you don't own the licensing to. But with these are computer generated from scratch. Like nobody owns it. Like, and maybe I don't own it, So I think right now it's kind of a gray area because,
It is still a gray area. No one actually knows the answer to that one yet.
Yeah. But on the TED side, nobody's going to be coming after them saying, hey, that, because
that's our
another
license.
Another woman at the talk used, the picture of like the goldfish bowl with like 4 or 5 goldfish and one's jumping out of the gold.
Oh, yes. Very old image.
She used that image in her talk. I'm like, well, I guess you're not going to be on YouTube because like you didn't take that picture.
Well, funny story about that. When that image first came out, there was I believe it was a PR agency in Australia that thought it was absolutely amazing. And they started using it as their main gimmick. And they thought, you know what, to get a whole pile of clients, we're going to send goldfish bowls with a goldfish in it. So all these places, you know where I'm going. You should see Mike's face right now. It's like, yikes. And they sent it out. And unfortunately for most places, it landed on a Friday and not necessarily in the morning. So it didn't get opened in a lot of cases. And by whoever it was, this is a very like 15-year-old story, 20-year-old story, but didn't get open till the EA or whoever it was on the Monday. And there was a lot of dead fish that came out of this. So it actually didn't do what they wanted to do. They didn't make them feel like they were jumping out to freedom. More like if you go with this company, you're going to go down the toilet with this fish.
Yeah, there's a TV show in the U.S. and Canada called WKRP in Cincinnati. It was in the 70s, and it was a funny show. It was a comedy about a radio station. And for Thanksgiving, they did this promotion where they threw turkeys out of the helicopter.
Oh.
And the radio director, this is a famous quote, is like, as God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
I'd be more worried about it hitting my head.
Yeah,
or going through the roof of the house.
Yeah, because like Les Nessman was the nerdy news person who was like in the shopping mall parking lot, and all these turkeys are just like butting around. It's like, oh my God, it's crazy.
Yeah, an umbrella will not save you that one.
No, and, the radio director is like, as God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. So something else on a marketing thing, I'd like to hear your thoughts on. Because you mentioned how like the goldfish PR company made a huge mistake and it totally went the opposite way. What I like to think about now is like Budweiser and how Budweiser spent billions and billions of dollars building their brand, like buying how much money on Super Bowl ads year after year. That's what they're known for. And then like, let's take like our opinion of the situation out of it. But then they hired one trans person to, represent their brand. And those billions of, like, they probably spent whatever, like $100,000 on advertising that one thing where they used a transgender person. Like, they didn't do the research. Like,
not their target audience at the moment.
Oh, right. And so, like, it's funny. There's a country western song now where the country western singer is making fun of like Cindy thinks COVID was a Chinese prank, and Bobby thinks Bud Light will turn you gay. And it's just, and it's a funny song, but it's not funny because it's true. Like Cindy does think COVID is a Chinese prank. It's not real, right? And Bobby does think that if I drink Bud Light, there's a really good chance
people may think, or people may even think I am.
Or maybe, right. And so, like, just I don't know, like, where would you go with that? Like Budweiser making this huge, like, what happened there? Like, what would like.
That's when brands are going too woke. When brands are thinking that they need to get on the bandwagon and be part of something that's not necessarily their story. So it goes back to something I've heard you say quite a lot on your podcast is being authentic. Right. Go back to being authentic. Who are you? Budweiser, if I was in their marketing team, I'd be looking at a funny, quirky apology. Something that will grab attention, something that has big blokey men in dresses. I don't know, whatever it might be that might get attention to go to the audience. Naturally, you do all sensitivity testing and everything like that to make sure it's fine with audience before you go live with your campaign. So I'm not saying just go do it, but acknowledge it. Maybe if it's part of your brand, because Budweiser is a bit of a fun brand as well. It does take the piss out of itself. We know that from all of its big Super Bowl ads and everything.
Yep.
use that as part of your story and then move on, because not every brand can go down that path of appearing to be on, for this example, transgender or whatever it might be, because that's
Right.
not authentically them. They
Right.
may want everyone to drink it because they know they'll all love to drink it, but it's not the biggest mass of their audience.
Right. Yeah.
I've actually there's one book, I'll put it up on the screen here. It's an Australian professor, Dr. Abbas. He wrote Woke Brands. So this book only came out earlier this year. It's again available on Amazon. And it's a fantastic book that just goes through selling products woke, and is it really going to fix society's issues or not?
Right.
So he's actually a professor at one of the big leading universities at Australia called Macquarie Uni. And it's a fascinating read about all the different brands and what things people have done during the years and if it's authentic or not.
Okay. Yeah, because I could see if I was launching a new beer when most
that's very different.
Yeah, when most beers are labeled like they're going after the cowboys and the trucks and the and all that, right? So if you
it might even be a craft beer, so you're going against people that've got man buns, like for example.
Right. Yeah. So there you could go after an audience and maybe dominate and do really well. But like you say, like Budweiser had its, NASCAR lane, and
very much so
they have to stick it. Like, and so it's funny because I don't know if I've on a few podcasts I've talked about like the most empathic person in the world. The true meaning of empathy is Donald Trump. And people think empathy is like it's sympathy and but no,
that's where they get it wrong. Yeah,
empathy is understanding, and he is.
Does he?
Well, and I have something about chopping wood. Oh, cheap.
That's right, puppy.
1 second, Cool thing about videos is you can edit them.
Very true.
Yeah, so my take on Donald Trump is I don't know if he's a genius or if he's lucky. But or
if he watches The Simpsons a lot.
I honestly think like, and I would never vote for the man. I would never have him over for dinner. I don't like the man, but at the same time I think he might be a genius. Like, and he's and Russell Brunson talks about creating the hero or what, like finding out who your audience wants to follow. And I think Trump is just craft because he's getting more of himself. Like he's becoming more Donald Trump as the years progress, right?
But is that a persona or is that authentically him? That's my only divide when it comes to big personalities like the Donald Trumps. Yeah. Is he really that behind the scenes? And is that really 100% his view, or is he crafting his message for the masses to be able to get those votes? I don't know him. I don't know his inner circle to be able to answer that. But from an outside, just seeing what is shown on the news, which is very limited and it is always skewed, I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's identified himself as, the billionaire common man. And that's what's so brilliant about him is these poor people, black people, women support him because they identify with him. But
is that because more they don't like the other person?
And there is that too. But no, there are like it's crazy. Like there are hardcore women that are pro Trump. And yeah, he said he grabs women by the whatever, right? But that's just locker room talk.
But that's also back in an era where unfortunately it was seen as acceptable. Right. That was at a time and place. He's moved on, and I'm hoping that he doesn't do that now.
I'm not saying he does it now, but he still says things like that, and women still excuse him for it. And for some reason, like if actors are, accused of something.
Oh, yeah, they're gone.
They're removed from the show immediately. It's like, no, we can't, guilty or not. Because I remember Aziz Ansari, the Indian funny guy, right?
Yep.
He went on a date with a woman, made his move because it's a date.
Yep.
She said no. He stopped, but
Yep.
then he Me Too'd him, saying, "Yeah, we were on a date, and he tried to kiss me." And he's like,
that does happen on dates. And you said no, and he stopped.
"Yeah."
And this
But
is again the news skewing things too.
Yeah, but he had to, battle to get his place in Hollywood back. But Trump can just keep doing same thing after thing after thing in his.
That's because he pays for the media too.
Yeah.
I think a better example to me of someone that is truly empathetic and has a very global brand is actually Keanu Reeves.
Okay.
Because he has done so many amazing things that he doesn't actually want people to necessarily scream about him. People find out he's humble about it. He doesn't ever go on a talk show and say, guess what? When I did The Matrix, I gave 70% of my makings to the stuntmen because they're the ones that actually made the magic happen. He doesn't do that. It happens. It gets out. He's like, why am I here? Let's talk about something else.
Right.
You see him in pictures on the sidewalk eating hot dogs. You see him just in a normal house, not in the Hollywood Hills or anything like that. He has, because of his family, he's done so much for charity as well by doing so many funding behind the scenes. He really does. He has been listening to pain. He's gone through it himself. He empathizes with it and he does action on it, but doesn't do it for his own reputation. I think that's a better leader.
Oh, it's definitely a better leader, but I think empathy is empathy regardless of how. So I call it dark empathy. Like Trump has dark empathy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I've coined that. I own that. Dark empathy. Yeah.
Do you like Star Wars too?
I'm not. I'm not a fan. Well, I'm not a raging fan. I'll watch them, but I could
see it going really well with Darth Vader. That's all.
Yeah. No, it's because empathy is very much like the Force, right? Like because empathy is a force, and Luke Skywalker, and Obi-Wan, they use the Force for good, and Darth and the Sith or whatever, they had the same Force, but they used the dark Force, right? And so I guess that is actually where I got dark empathy from, is because it's sort of similar. So, but yeah, Trump just has incredible empathy.
He's got the charisma.
He just uses it like Darth Vader does. That's all. And he breathes similar. They breathe the same way as well. So, so how do you? What does wrap up with? How do you use empathy in your marketing?
So for me, I actually use it as part of a tool I use as well, which is a customer journey map. So I think it's extremely important to understand your customers to be able to empathize with them. And you can't do that unless you understand the journey they go through using your product or service. So by having a really great, clear customer journey map on all the different ways, because you might have one, you might have 5 of these, on all the different ways they interact and go through a service or purchase or whatever the journey might be. It might even be more of your life cycle management. You're better to understand how they're feeling and then how you can potentially make it better for them or give them a surprise and delight or get rid of some of those problems. Because without understanding them and being in their shoes, you're never going to be able to empathize with them to the better extent.
Right.
So that would be my biggest tip. Learn customer journey mapping, learn to do them right, and actually use it to get ways to optimize what you're doing and improve it and make it better for your customers. And you can even benchmark that too when you put the changes in.
Perfect. Well, thanks a lot, Susan. If people want to reach out to you, I don't know if you have any offer for anybody, or like, how can they reach you?
So for myself, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. So it's Susan Walsh on LinkedIn. I've also got moretomarketing.com.au where I have my podcast and blog there as well. And as I said, Mike's going to be on there very soon too. So you have to keep an eye out for that episode as well.
Very cool. I'll put your links in the show notes, so that'll make it easy for everyone to reach out. Thanks so much for coming on the show, and thanks for debating Donald Trump empathy with me.
Or lack of, possibly.
And, that was the debate. And, it was really cool. Also, just to hear how you applied your empathy in the Regency period for your book writing. That was really interesting as well.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on today as well. Thanks again, Mike.
All right, Susan, we'll see you on your podcast.
Done.
All righty. Bye-bye. And that is a wrap for this episode of Because Business is Personal. Thanks for joining us. And don't forget to take advantage of my 2 special offers. First, you can get a free copy of my best-selling book, Empathic Marketing. You just pay for the shipping. Or you can get a 50% discount on my gap analysis session with the coupon code podcast. Just head over to www.becausebusinessispersonal.com or check the show notes for details. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to follow, subscribe, leave a review, and share the podcast with others who might benefit. Your support means the world to us, so stay tuned for our next episode where we'll continue to delve into the intersection of empathy and marketing strategy. Remember, because business is indeed personal, every connection counts. Until next time, see you then.